Hey, thanks for coming along. I hope that wasn't too loud in your ear if you're wearing earbuds. And I'm just going to get on to the G's now because there's no E's or F's. It just goes straight into G here. And G is quite significant because it's grizzly bear. And some of you may have heard of grizzly bear. I hope you have. And Yellow House is really one that I would highly recommend getting. And so it sort of stands out as, I'm not sure if it's their first album, but one of their early albums that got some attention. So Yellow House is worth investigating. Grizzly Bear is great. It's another one of these interesting, the genre moves around. Like I would have said Yellow House was very Americana. And again, you could probably get that from the name. I've talked about Band of Horses as having sort of a country feel to it. But I'd revise that and say more of an Americana feel to it, which is sort of different to country. You know, country can put people off, but Americana, I think, has got that idea of traveling through, the states and maybe even the southern states, but that sort of big sky country. And there's a feeling with Grizzly Bear that they've got that. And yet, when you get a few of the other albums, and something like Horn of Plenty, which is another album, not a must-have, but still, I really like them. I've got another one here. It's now in a digipack. I'm sort of mixing them up now. Shields. I think that's one of the more recent ones. I really like Shields. So consider that as well. I think that's a standout. So Yellow House and Shields. And I've also got Painted Ruins. Now, you're probably wondering, why isn't this open? Because it is plastic wrapped. My first version of this got damaged, so I had to get another one, and yet I haven't opened it. Because the first one, the CD can still play, but the packaging got ripped. So I was being a little bit uptight about that and just wanting to get a nice piece of packaging, and I bought it again a second time. So Painted Ruins, Shields are great, but the one that really stands out for me, and I happen to have a 2-disc version of that, is Veckatimest. And I hope I'm saying that right. Yep. Veckatimest. Veckatimest, I think. It's have a look in the description. See if you can pronounce it. I thought it was Veckatimest, but maybe if you're saying it quickly. Anyway, it's a great album. It's probably my favorite. It's got one of these standout tracks for me, Cheerleader, which sort of just I keep coming back to as one of my favorite tracks. This is what the cover looks like. I think that's sort of the normal cover, but this one does have a second CD in it with sort of outtakes or B-sides, what have you. So I only ever got this one, which was good, because that's something I mentioned before, is that sometimes when they re-release CDs, it's just another way of upselling a new version of it. Sometimes it feels more cynical than other times, but in this case it's a really good bonus disc, so I'm glad I've got it. In fact, I think the bonus disc are more stripped down versions of some of the main tracks on this album, so that's actually always worthwhile. I think if they do a good job of that, it's sort of like Nirvana Unplugged. If you know how highly acclaimed that album is, it's sort of suddenly you're hearing the songs in a whole new way because it's just simplified. But I love Grizzly Bear. So obviously, again, as the rule throughout applies, if I've got 3 or more of something, it suggests that I'm going to recommend getting at least one of those albums from that musician or band. And in this case, Grizzly Bear. I've got about 5 albums. So yeah, do look at them, have a listen to them. Again, I think Yellow House and Veckatimest is are the 2 to maybe consider purchasing. Moving right along, so that I'm not trying to say that word again, there's Ian Brown. So Ian Brown, he put out a few solo albums. I only got one, Music of the Spheres. He's the lead singer from the Stone Roses, which is one of my favourite bands. And of course, we're going to get to the Stone Roses eventually. He's not known as really having the most amazing voice, but I did see Stone Roses live, and he actually sounded really good. I heard from someone who saw him play, because he does sort of tangentially get involved with world music, because I think his wife might be from Latin America. I don't know which country. And so there's one track on here, El Mundo Pequeño. if I can pronounce it, which is sort of a Spanish titled, or maybe it's Portuguese, so I don't mean to get that wrong. And so he sings all in Spanish. Let's just say Spanish, but he sings in a Latin dialect on one of the tracks. But I know that he's toured as a part of a world music program. I'm not sure if it was what's Peter Gabriel's. See, this is a problem trying to do this sort of off the cuff and not just it's on the tip of my tongue. But you'll be screaming at this now, saying, "Oh yeah, you're talking about." And whoever went and saw him said that he wasn't very good. He didn't sound very good. So, but this, he sounds amazing. I mean, he is a bit of a bother boy. I don't know if that can be applied to someone from Manchester, but he's a bit of a lad. Let's just put it that way. And he managed to get some amazing musicians. And he did. I saw a brief interview with him where WOMAD. I knew it would come to me. WOMAD. I think he might have played at WOMAD or something similar, which seemed odd. Because this is certainly not world music, but maybe there was something he was doing or he was DJing. I think he does a bit of DJing now, which is interesting. Even Tom York does some DJing. And I think he was playing some world music tracks at sort of like either WOMAD or something equivalent. But he did also sing probably some of his Spanish songs, and somebody just thought he sounded like a drowning goat. But that can happen. Sometimes their voices aren't up to par, but he sounded great when I went and saw him. Stone Roses always sound great to me because it's the music. So I'm really somebody who listens to music holistically, including sort of the instrumentations. That's why I quite like albums that also have sort of instrumentals throughout. I'm not really focused on lyrics unless they're a really good lyricist and the way they sing it stands out, but I'm not saying he mumbles his way through, but I really think this album's got some beautiful tracks. So consider Music of the Spheres. I know I sort of waffled on there a bit, but Ian Brown is a bit of a legend, certainly in Manchester, certainly at the early sort of beginnings of Britpop. Stone Roses had huge influence. And of course, Ian Brown had a massive influence on Oasis. I wouldn't necessarily say he had the same influence on Blur. They might have been influenced by other things, but the swagger and the attitude of Oasis, sort of that their roots are in Ian Brown. They sort of look to him as a bit of an idol in that respect. So there's lots of really interesting small sort of videos on YouTube that you can look at. Look up Ian Brown, Stone Roses, things like that. Moving right along, sorry, just shut up and stop talking about Ian Brown, is Jim O'Rourke. And Jim O'Rourke is a musician's musician. He's a bit of a gun for hire. I want to say he's worked with Sonic Youth, and I want to say that, and I'm not 100% sure, but he has worked with a lot of people. He appears on all sorts of albums across the board, but this is one of his own albums. And it's largely instrumental. It's called Bad Timing. And I'm just trying to recall if it's actually got any singing. Because he plays guitar. He's one of these multi-instrumentalists who's capable of just creating beautiful, lush sounds. These other two albums, with their rather confronting, they're rather quirky actually, because the CD front and back is sort of designed to look like you're flipping it over and it looks no different. It's actually just a photo of the front put on the back. This is the actual front. And of course, that's kind of a bit of a challenging image. So, trigger warning. You've seen it now. You can't unsee it. But this is an amazing, amazing album. It's just quite mellow. It's just beautiful, beautiful playing, beautiful singing. I mean, his voice is just really, you either love it or you don't. He's got quite a mellow tone to his singing, so I really like it. I was going to look for the track listing, but no, I'll have to get the sleeve out, and I just won't do that. But this is another album. So I've got 3 Jim O'Rourke albums, and so obviously I'm recommending choosing one of these Jim O'Rourke's. This one's just weird, but not as confronting as the other one. Obviously got a theme going, and he is still going. He's turned up on a few other albums. I've got this band called Loose Fur, which is a side project, which he did with Jeff Tweedy from Wilco. So, that's the sort of company he keeps. So again, there might be, an Americana vibe to it, a little bit of a country twang to some of the playing, but I wouldn't really put it in that category. I'd just say it's good alternative indie music. And if you know what that is, and I don't really, know how to describe that, it's just, you get a feel for it, then it's just really good example of that. And finally, King Biscuit Time, No Style. This is a quirky album put out by one of the guys from the Beta Band. So I talked about the Beta Band Under Bees as being essential. I wouldn't say this is essential to own, but it's worth investigating. If you like the Beta Band, this is a side project from, now I don't know who it is from the band, whether it's one of the musicians or lead singer or what have you, but it's really worth investigating if you like the Beta Band, because it's got a similar sound. It's pretty upbeat, good sampling, and good sound effects, and obviously there's a mix of instruments and also synthesizer and things going through whatever sort of computer software programs people put things through these days to create sort of convoluted sounds and beats. So it's a really nice album, but not essential. What I would say is essential is Grizzly Bear. Definitely look at Grizzly Bear. So that's it. That's from that's G and K, and what was in between J and I. We're up to the L's next. So please persevere, and please come back. And I hope this is helping you sort of form a idea of what kind of collection you'd have, especially in the alternative indie part. But we've got a lot to go through. So thanks for coming back, and please do keep coming back.